Today's topic is copyright, and if you have 5 minutes, I have 5 tips to help you to understand how it applies to you. If someone were to ask me what I thought was one of the most misunderstood aspects of writing in new writers, it would have to be the issue of copyright. I can't tell you how many times I've been on some kind of writers' forums, lurking around or interacting, and I see questions that people have about copyright. They seem to not understand it, they seem to be very worried about it, and they're asking questions of people who know very little more about it than they do. And I often see people on forums giving advice that isn't right. So I thought that, given that it's something that new writers seem to worry about, I'd like to give you some thoughts about copyright to assuage your worries, but also to help you to understand things that you should know as you move through your writing career. First, let's look at exactly what copyright means. In general, copyright is a legal term that refers to your rights as the producer of a piece of creative work to use that piece of work in any way that you want to. But let's look at a specific definition, and this one comes from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Copyright is the exclusive legal right to reproduce, publish, sell, or distribute the matter and form of something such as a literary, musical, or artistic work. It's the rights that you have over the material that you produce. Okay, so here are my 5 tips to help you to understand what you need to know about copyright. Tip number 1, understand that copyright is automatic. Once you have created your work, a book for example, in a tangible form, which a book is, you own the copyright to it. It's as simple as that. There isn't any need for you to register it. There isn't any need for you to go through any kind of a formal process unless you want to. For example, in the screenwriting business, there's a lot more money involved than there is in the book writing business, and sometimes screenwriters will put a copy of a screenplay in an envelope, a script in an envelope, seal it up, put a stamp on it, and mail it to themselves. And when it arrives, they file it away. They don't open it. So you have a sealed document with a date on it that's stamped by the Postal Service that says that you had created this work prior to that time, should anyone ever question it. You could do that, but I think there's a bit of paranoia there for new writers to think that they need to copyright their material in that way. All you need to do is say that it's copyrighted in a book. But the truth of the matter is, once you create it, and it's on your hard drive, it's yours, and you have the right to use it any way you want to. Tip number 2, copyright gives the original creator exclusive rights to its use and distribution. This means that you can do anything you want with your particular piece of material that you've created. What it also means is that if you sign a publishing contract with a traditional publisher, you will usually maintain the copyright. Your name will be listed on the copyright page as the owner of the copyright, but under the terms of your contract, you will assign certain rights to the publisher to give that publisher the right to produce and reproduce your material, to distribute your material, and perhaps to use it in other ways like electronic ways. But that's your choice to assign the copyright. Now, obviously, if you sign a contract with a legacy publisher, you have to assign certain rights to them, or they can't publish your work because you own the rights to it. Tip number 3, the term fair use means a limitation on the copyright, but it allows for the use of copyrighted material without permission under specific circumstances. Those circumstances might include things like reviews, criticisms, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, research. The fair use laws allow people in these kinds of situations to use material which is copyrighted in certain ways and to a certain degree. For example, if a professor were going to use one of your books in a course, they couldn't reproduce that book in its entirety, but they might be able to use passages of it as they teach the course during the semester during which the students are studying it. The fair use laws can be complex. And they're only important to you as the writer if you think that somebody is overstepping their bounds, if they've used too much of your material and you don't consider that fair use. You'd have to go to a lawyer to find out, a copyright lawyer. Tip number 4, there is no copyright on titles. So this might come as a surprise to you, but on the other hand, if you were to go on Amazon and look up titles of books, you may very well find numerous books having the exact same title. So you could use the title of a book that someone has already used. That's fine, you can do that. But the question is, why would you? Don't you want to have a unique title? So although you could do that, you probably shouldn't do it from the perspective of writing. On the other hand, if you have a particularly great title for a book that you love and you find that somebody else then uses that title, that's okay, because you can't copyright your title. Tip number 5, song lyrics are copyrighted and you cannot use them in your work without permission. Of course, that's unless you want to be sued. Because people who own the copyright to song lyrics are very concerned that people not use them, and they will probably come after you if you do use them, if they find out. Copyright owners for song lyrics are entitled to a couple of things. One of the things is that if you ask them for permission, they're first of all entitled to deny you permission to use it at all. Second thing they could do is they could give you permission to use them, but require you to jump through some hoops and to pay a significant fee for the use of the material. The third thing that they could do, and which you probably will find happens sometimes, is that they won't respond to you at all. So my suggestion to you, in order to avoid this problem, is not to use song lyrics in your material. Now I have a bit of a bonus tip for you, because it's something that new writers seem to be concerned about, and it's this: there is no copyright on ideas. If you share your idea with somebody, it doesn't matter whether it's your next door neighbor or a writing colleague or someone online, if they like your idea and they want to run with it, that's okay. You can't copyright ideas. So if you don't want somebody that you know to take advantage of an idea that you came up with, keep your mouth shut. Don't tell them. Don't post about it online. Or expect that somebody's going to say, wow, that sounds like a great idea. I think I should write something about that. Finally, one thing you need to know is that copyright laws do vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. Laws in one country are not exactly the same as others, but there are some kinds of international cooperative agreements, treaties, that do cover copyright so that as material is viewed from one country to another, there are similar laws. The other thing that you might want to look into is the extent to which copyright extends after the death of the creator. And it's not exactly the same in every country. It could be copyright is still invested in the creator of a piece of material until 70 years after their death. It could be 50. It depends where you live. So if you wanted to use a piece of material that was created by someone that you think is now in the public domain because the person has been dead for a very long time, I would suggest that you check very carefully on the laws wherever you live. My final word to you is don't worry so much about copyrighting your own work. Just write, just publish the material, follow the laws, follow the guidelines, and don't worry about other people stealing your material. It really doesn't happen all that often. Happy writing. Subscribe to Write, Fix, Repeat, and maybe I can help you improve your writing knowledge and skills. 5 tips at a time.